Polyvagal theory kind of demystifies some of why yoga works, and I think the science helps ground it as well. So for me, the polyvagal theory is kind of explaining why we feel so good when we do these practices. For a long time, I kept my yoga practice over in one lane, and I had my psychotherapy practice in another lane. And for me, the polyvagal theory helped me bridge those two into one connected place. So I call it this intersection of science and soma, the body and soul.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
I'm here at the Potsdam Polyvagal Conference 2024, and we've been talking, today it was the first day, and we've been talking about polyvagal theory again, and I'm really happy to have here with me Arielle Schwartz. Arielle, thank you for being here with us and talking a little bit about well, your passion. I would say that. I think it's a passion, combining polyvagal theory and yoga and the trauma work also. It's really like a whole.
Yes, yes. I think for such a long time, well, first of all, let me just say, I love spending time with you, Florence, and with Mark as well. And there is so much heart for me coming to the Polyvagal Institute events and the conferences and being with our partners. And it's just, every time it just feels like coming home. So that's the first, that before we go into anything else, it just feels like, my whole body relaxes being here. So,
Mine also. It's really this polyvagal family that Deb Dana is talking about. It's really what we are experiencing here, but also with all the people around the world that are connected to us through the internet, and that's incredible.
It is incredible. There are so many people that have said, I've practiced with you on YouTube, or I took this course with you online, and we get to see each other in person. And I feel the same way. I'm meeting my teachers here in person. And so there's this collective sharing of knowledge in all directions, right? I think that it's, I think often we think about brainstorm or a hive mind, but for me, because polyvagal is so embodied, and I think even more so, the emphasis this year is very much on this embodiment, that it's beyond the concept or the science, but really the experience of and the felt sense of and embodiment of these principles that we're here to cultivate. And with that shared embodiment, there's actually this embodiment tank, right, of shared wisdom that evolves together from all of us.
Yeah, and so you've Quantum Way has translated one of your course, a yoga course, polyvagal in yoga, and it's been a real success. And people who have taken it are really happy they could access to that. Maybe we can talk a little bit about why you come, what polyvagal brings to yoga, and what yoga brings to polyvagal. Maybe
the way I think of it is that polyvagal helps give this explanatory mechanism to what yogic practices provide us with. And I think we have that, the felt sense. Obviously, yoga has transcended thousands of years, and it gets passed on through tradition and practice and spoken and written word. But there's a way in which polyvagal theory kind of demystifies some of why yoga works. And I think the science helps ground it as well, so that we're not looking to, kind of place the teacher, the guru up here on high, and that somehow they're transmitting this experience to us. It helps us recognize that we all have within us the neurological and physiological mechanisms to experience deep peace, deep sense of safety, deep experience of both relaxation, but also excitement and joy and empowerment through these practices. And So for me, the polyvagal theory is kind of explaining why we feel so good when we do these practices. And not that we need the science to validate it because it's valid on its own, but there's a way in which it also helps ground it, right? That I'm no longer in some way going to think that it's the teacher that made me feel this way. I get to feel this way because it's in here. That's brilliant. Yeah.
And what does yoga bring to maybe the polyvagal word or the trauma word, because it's
Yes.
also something you've worked a lot on.
Yes. For a long time, I kept my yoga practice over in one lane, and I had my psychotherapy practice in another lane. And for me, the polyvagal theory helped me bridge those two into one connected place so that I am able to translate the way that the role that I play as a practitioner and the presence that I bring when I'm working with clients on trauma is the very same role that I experience when I'm teaching yoga. And it's the very same presence that I cultivate when I'm practicing yoga. And so they don't need to be kept separate. The latest book, the Applied Polyvagal Theory and Yoga book, is really about bringing together psychotherapy and the science of yoga, or the study of yoga, and the experience of polyvagal theory, the science of that. So I call it this intersection of science and soma, the body and soul. And it kind of helps ground this embodied spirituality where we don't have to also leave spirituality out of the psychotherapy exchange and out of trauma healing. And so many people, when we're healing from trauma, are looking for a deep sense of meaning and purpose, are actually seeking a deep understanding, not so much why the trauma happened, but how do I create a meaningful life in relationship to the traumas that I've experienced. And we need an element of soulfulness to help us drop into that deeper inner knowing.
And so this book you're talking about, Applied Polyvagal Theory in Yoga, we're going to translate it. It's being translated. It will, I think, be released for the French speaking audience in France and many French speaking countries in 2025. We need time to translate it. I was really pleased to get this book. What will people find in it, and who is it for? Only therapists or?
Yes. So the book is written for the practitioner, and that word practitioner can be anything from the yoga teacher, the psychotherapist, an individual who's bridging that gap. And quite honestly, I get a lot of feedback that because I write books in a very accessible manner, even the yoga practitioner will benefit from reading this book because you will understand how you might integrate these practices into your life, whether the practices are for toning the vagus nerve or neuromodulation, creating this deep sense of ease within your body and mind through simple breath practices or self-applied touch. And it also helps bridge that gap of I'm a yoga teacher, but I'm also a psychotherapist, and how do I put those together? And I spent months and months really contemplating how do I bring those two lanes into one embodied presence of the practitioner. And it really comes back down to that it's not a set of techniques that we're teaching to our clients, but it is our own presence that we build through the repetition of these practices, and that our clients can feel when we're in that ventral regulation, because our body is calm, our vocal prosody is communicating those signals of safety. And on top of the presence that it builds for us, we can then offer these same practices to clients that are interested in them. so that they can, between psychotherapy sessions, be strengthening that ventral vagal or calming axis of their own nervous system, and also be practicing deep restorative mindfulness and relaxation.
And you talked about vagal tone. Can you say a little more about that?
Yes, I love that question. I think it's confusing for a lot of people. What does it really mean to tone the vagus nerve? What we're doing is we're creating a gentle stimulation of the vagus nerve, particularly where it comes close to the surface of the skin and works with other cranial nerves. So when you massage, for example, around the eyes, the ears, the jaw, the sides of your neck, when you work with certain eye movements or certain breath practices, we're actually creating this little stimulus into the vagus nerve. So the outcome of the vagal toning or the vagal tone is really a homeostasis, or it's a regulated autonomic nervous system, which means that we have a relative balance between our sympathetic and parasympathetic branches. We're not stuck in sympathetic. We're not just in parasympathetic, either relaxation or shutdown, but we have this flexible capacity to move between those states or upregulate or downregulate as we need to in order to come into this optimal state, which we call coherence. Coherence, I'm sure you are familiar with, is this concept that's measured by heart rate variability, but it basically is this very flexible and rhythmic nervous system state that facilitates mental clarity and the ability to take this mindful pause in stressful moments so that we don't just jump into reactivity, but we can be more mindfully responsive. Yeah.
And what else can we find in this book? Because it's
chunky.
It's a heavy book, I would
Well,
say.
you know me. I'm a woman of words. I like to write a lot of words. No, one of the things that you'll find in this book is clinical examples, because I feel that my readers have been, and my trainees have been wanting more of an understanding of what does this look like. So I offer for each of the different segments of the book a clinical example or two to really get a sense of, that's what this can look like. And it follows an arc of different types of yogic interventions. The first of which are about self-discovery. Right? We talk a lot in polyvagal theory about neuroception. And it's about awareness of your nervous system state as a foundation for change. And then from there, we have centering practices. And this is really about how do you come into that residing presence within yourself? How do you access what in internal family systems we might call self-energy? Right? How do we arrive there? So it might be a breath practice. It might be a mudra. It might be a mantra. It might be an intention. Then we go into balancing practices, and balancing practices let you build what we call nervous system flexibility, right? Where you can upregulate, I can actually tolerate more excitement, and I can downregulate into more calm, and that I can find the edges of where maybe calm got a little scary, or maybe excitement got a little scary, and I can work those edges to have a broader range of nervous system states that I'm comfortable in. And then we expand on that in the last two segments, which is really about building more mobilization, right? Building more capacity for an elevated heart rate, for joy, for play. And then the final stage is about deep, deep relaxation through yoga nidra, through mindfulness meditation.
So you don't need to be a yoga practitioner to get benefits from this book.
I get that question a lot. If I'm not a yoga teacher, but I'd like to integrate some simple yogic practices into my work with clients, and this lets you do that. So you do not have to be a yoga teacher, and it gives you the tools or a basic education in these yogic principles. And what I'm finding is that the yoga teachers really benefit from saying, I want to do more therapeutic yoga, but I'm not a therapist. But this helps me know the basic skills of attunement and how I might be observing the nervous system state of my students or of an individual that I'm working with so that I can help them be more regulated through the practice.
And if I'm not a therapist and if I'm not a yoga teacher,
Yeah.
can I read this book? You said it's easy
for
to
anybody.
and can I is it going to trigger my traumas or?
Oh no.
Okay.
No, I mean, I there's a few things that I pride myself in as a writer. One is that I write in a manner that is not overexposing my readers to terrible, horrible stories. I don't think there's any point in that. I make it relevant enough that you will understand, if you've experienced trauma, how it's related for you, how you can benefit, but you're not going to hear horrible stories or read about them. The other piece is that, you know, if I don't have a yoga background or a therapist background, but I want to read this just for my own benefit, I'm really proud that I write in a way that I think anybody can understand. You don't have to be a scientist to understand this book too. So, and I love Steve's work, you know, of course. I mean, Steve Porges is really the person that's brought us all here. And I think he's really relied on Deb Dana and myself and now his son and others of us to help translate the science of polyvagal theory into this very practical set of tools.
Well, thank you very much. That's really, we're really, really excited to have this book in our bookshelf.
Yes.
And is there anything you want to say to our polyvagal community, the English one, the French one, but also all the countries and all the languages, Italian, German, because everyone will get access to this interview?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, I really just want to say thank you. One of the things that has really struck me, especially as I bring this work out to the international audiences, is that this work wouldn't have a landing place if it wasn't for everybody who are collectively generating this degree of interest and willingness to participate in what I feel like is a deep change process that is beneficial not only for us as individuals, but really for us as a planet. And we need regulated nervous systems right now more than ever.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
that's sure.
Yeah.
And so if you want to find more about Arielle Schwartz and her work, she has a wonderful website. It's in English, or you can go to Quantum Way and to the PVI's partners website in your language. Thank you.
Thank you.